Okay, hi everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Zain. I am a senior software engineer at NinjaVan. Today I'm going to talk about navigating the web in a world full of constraints. So this talk is about my journey of building websites. For each of those websites, I will explain the constraints that I encountered, as well as how I navigated around them. And by the end of the talk, I will talk about how I balance between quality, cost, and speed to understand the ceiling of the tech stacks. I'm going to skip the introduction of myself because the whole talk is basically the introduction of myself. So yeah, please bear in mind. So in the past 5+ years of my journey in the front end, I have been building a bunch of websites. Some of them are on my workplace and some others are in an open source projects. And yeah, so in 2019, I built ninjavan.co, obviously the website of my company. And the next year, unfortunately, the pandemic strikes. So I led a team to build another website for, it's a one-stop information portal for COVID-19 in Indonesia. Then the next year, unfortunately, the pandemic strikes harder. So we needed another website to build a more sophisticated website for the pandemic in Indonesia. And the next year in 2022, fortunately, the pandemic slows down, so I have some more time for my own side projects, and I just built a simple catalog for learning resources. And last but not least, this year I built a web app that unfortunately I cannot disclose, but there are still things that we can learn from there. Yeah, okay, so in 2019, I built this company's website. Basically, it's a revamped version of the existing company website. As you can see in the screenshot, NinjaVan is a delivery company. So we deliver stuff, basically. And because our services span across 7 countries, we have to serve in 11 locales. So which means it's very related to what Huijing has explained earlier in the talk. And yeah, I have to deal with I-18N, or internationalization. We decided to do it with static pages. We used Gatsby at the time because in 2019 it was the most mature static site generator framework in 2019. And I think now we have a lot more options, but at the time that was the best option. And for the I-18N, I had another talk, which is also hosted by engineers.sg. Thanks for hosting and recording the video. You can find the video in that link. And initially we built this website by simply hard-coding the HTML pages because we just need to deliver it, right? We just need to have the new face of the company built quickly. So we did it along the way and we just published it. But then, yeah, as Shakir just mentioned just now, the content team, the marketing team wants more, right? So they want more flexibility of modifying the page, and then we slowly migrate the pages into headless CMS. Yeah, and we picked this content.ai for the headless CMS solution. And yeah, the next year, in 2020, the pandemic hits. It's called COVID-19, just in case someone forgot about it. Yeah, unfortunately, the Indonesian government didn't handle the misinformation problem properly, like in Singapore. So a bunch of Indonesian living in Singapore and also in Indonesia, including Herdi, one of our staff here that helped us here. He also helped us to build this web. So basically, it is an open source website, and what we did here was we generate static pages back with the headless CMS again and script data. So we move on towards Next.js because around that time they just released an SSG feature. It was still in beta back then, but we just go with it. And I think a few weeks later they just released it as a stable one. And fortunately, yeah, it ended up work for us. We hosted it in Netlify. Fortunately, we also get some COVID-19 support to host it. But we also have some WordPress instance, and we cannot host WordPress in Netlify, right? At least last time I checked, we cannot. So yeah, we also have some WordPress instance where Herdi helped us to set up, and it's basically we use WordPress because it's more friendly, familiar for our content editors, and we use a headless plugin to be able to serve the content for the Next.js static site generation. And for data itself, we don't want to deviate from the government, so we simply script their website, the official source, and we hosted the JSON files ourselves as static files. Yeah, the next year, the pandemic hit harder. There was a Delta wave everywhere. People were scrambling around to grab some oxygen, ambulance. There are bed capacity shortages in hospitals. So a bunch of COVID-19 NGOs and companies they assemble to build something urgent and something new for helping the situations get better. Because we needed to launch it very quickly, right? So within 3 days, we had to launch it in a TV show broadcast. So this is what we came up with. Yeah, so as you can see, this website is not so good, and the reason is because we simply use Google Docs. So we fetch the Google Docs page, we get the HTML, we get the CSS, we discard the JavaScript because we don't want the JavaScript part of it. We just want the HTML part, and there it is. So it's a very scrambled website because, all of these organizations, they want to put something there, and we want to get it done quickly. So that's what we just get with. And yeah, we know that's not the best solution, right? Because we don't have control over the markups. And that's also something that Sakit said about headless CMS. So we started migrating it over to, before migrating the homepage, there's also a worse situation about the database. So this is the information, and if they want to find some oxygen or some empty hospital, or at least they want to contact some ambulance to get down to their place, they have to open these Google Sheets. And imagine opening this in a mobile device. You have to scroll horizontally. I think it loads very, the load time is also very bad on mobile devices because of the size of the data that they have to serve. So we improved the database by fetching the Google Sheets and present it in a more user-friendly way, and it is also accessible on the browser side. So if the user wants to access some oxygen in Jakarta, they can simply get the contact easily. And by the end of July, we also improved the homepage. So from the Google Docs version that you saw, now it's a bit better, still a bit rough, but at least now we have control over the markup, so it's better on SEO. So whenever people try to find contact about this system of the Ministry of Health, they can, because this website has a good SEO, so people can get redirected to it. Yeah, and a month later, by the end of August, we ended up having the current state of the website. So initially it was a markdown file, like this one markdown file is serving the whole homepage. So we grab the markups from the markdown, and we serve it into our own HTML structure. But now we have broken down the markdown file into more granular JSON files and markdown files. Yeah, and yeah, that's how we ended up with this kind of website. Yeah. Yeah, and for the image also, we also use Cloudinary here. So yeah, just to make Mr. Thomas happy about it. Okay, and yeah, the year after, the pandemic slows down, and I have some more free time to work on something else. So we have, I and some of the initiators of the previous COVID websites, we started building a content curation for learning resources for parents. And because during the pandemic, people try to educate their children at home, right? So we want to help those parents who are missing those resources. But still, we only had them in Google Sheets for, I think, for a year, because we were still busy with the COVID stuff, right? And Yeah, I simply decided to build a proper catalog UI to represent these Google Sheets in a better UI. And yeah, for the name, it's called Senarai. Senarai is an Indonesian word of list or array. It doesn't mean that, yeah, and fortunately it rhymes with AI, with all the hypes we have in the past few years. And, but no, we don't have any AI system implemented yet. Hopefully soon in the future, after listening to all your talks, I think I get more ideas about how to implement some AIs in my website. And yeah, the one thing that I'm proud of this website is because this was my fastest MVP so far. So I get it done within only 2 days. So just basically a weekend and 30 commits. Yeah, that's because I started small with everything I have learned from my previous projects. And you know the Google Sheets fetcher, I simply copy it and paste it here and adjust it to match my new Google Sheets format. So I treat this website as a venue for myself to experiment with bleeding edge tech stacks. And yeah, because I used Remix, so I can easily deploy it to some more bleeding edge tech stacks, including the deploy, because I just wanted to live on the edge. And using GitHub Actions, I can fetch the data from the Google Sheets daily and deploy to Dino deploy. And for the UI, yeah, I just simply use ready-to-use UI components from Tailwind UI to build all of those UI. Yeah, but again, as I mentioned, it is an experiment, right? So I wanted to have another version of this app living on a different instance. I'll call it beta.senar.ai. The difference is in the original website, when you submit the form, because it is based on Google Sheets, right? So when you want to contribute, you will be presented by a Google form. But in the beta version, it will be a proper form. So this is what I was experimenting with. Yeah, you will have a proper form here. So I use this as a venue of experimenting with Remix streaming feature, which is basically a version of React streaming and suspense feature in Remix. Last but not least, this year I built an internal app. So because it is undisclosed, I can only show you the login page. And yeah, but nevertheless, so what's interesting about this app is, about this web app is, due to the company's absence of Node.js SSR support, I had to pivot to a single page app solution. So unfortunately, the company doesn't support Node.js server, and I mean, the company has already focusing on serving the actual servers, right, for all the API stuff. But when I wanted to have BFF, best friend forever, like backend for front end, basically, I cannot have it because simply there's no Node.js support. So we have to. So our front end should be a simple HTML file. And over the years, and for this particular project, we also expect that over the years, more teams will add more features to the product. So having an awesome developer experience is crucial. That's why we started building this with Monorepo. We used Turborepo as our solution for clearing, for having a clear separation of concerns and code ownership across teams. We also use Vite and Vitess to have an awesome developer experience, both on the development environment and the unit test framework. And we also use React Router. So what's interesting from this is, I mean, we all know React Router, right? Who have ever used React Router before? React Router. Yeah, I believe it should be. I think at some point in our career we should be using it already. We may not notice about it unless you're using Next.js. But even then, before the Next.js time, there are already frameworks using React Routers behind the scene. So what's interesting about this is React Routers recently brought some of its powerful functionalities from Remix, which is its data router. And it means that the routers are aware of data fetching logic. So there is a talk by the React Router founder. It's called When to Fetch, and it's talking about how React Router utilizes this data router. And also with the nested routing mechanism, I get to build micro front-end with build-time integration. What I mean by build-time integration is when, basically we assemble all of this micro front-end during the build time. Because micro front-end is very wide in terms of interpretation. There are so many types of implementation that can fit into micro front-end. So this is how the code looks like, and this is the only code that you will see in this presentation. So basically this is our main config routes for the whole project, and currently we only have one team that is contributing to this project, so we have this route. But then maybe later this year there will be more teams contributing to it, and what we need to do is simply add another line here for their pages and serve whatever they put in their package within the monorepo. So what I learned about it is, so all of those websites help me to learn about making trade-offs. At some point in time we have to make trade-offs, especially about quality, cost, and speed. And the popular thought around the trade-off is that we can only pick 2 out of these 3 aspects. So if you want to pick all of them, usually people just they will end up have to picking 2 out of those. But why not all? I think, at least recently, I think it is still possible to pick all 3 based on my previous experience, given the right size of the scope. So it's a matter of downsizing the scope of the product that we are building. So yeah, I believe it is possible to deliver a project that is fast, cheap, and good by applying the concepts of the lean process, which is basically around scoping your project into a smaller subset of possible, but still deliver it fast, cheap, and good. Okay, a few days ago, I think last week we had a conversation on Twitter about front-end ceiling with Sean. Basically, it's talking about career ceiling for front-end developers. So at some point, front-end developers are being quietly graded into a lower tier of software engineer that will never be on track of VP engineering or CTO. Well, there may be some truth of it, but it's for, what I'm learning about this is, there may be also the tech stack ceiling, which means every tech stack will always have limitations. So we just need to understand the limitations of the tech stack that we pick and optimize our project for change towards moving out of this tech stack. We should be mindful of the fact that we don't really know what requirements will be placed upon our code in the future. And this is also another quote about career development. Just pick one thing to do, and if that doesn't work, then pick another. Making a choice and trying it is an important career skill. I used to be a back-end developer back then, a few years ago, and then 5 years ago I moved towards front-end, and I think this is a good thing for me. So I think it also applies for picking tech stack. So my key takeaway for all of this experience is, just pick any tech stack that enables you to do the job. But once you hit the ceiling, you have to get ready to pivot to another stack when the time comes. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.